Okay, hi guys. This is going to be my first Nosebleed Hand History review video. In each part, I am going to review one hand that was played at the very high stakes played online, and yeah, I hope it's gonna be fun. I'm mainly making these videos just for fun and maybe to get some feedback from you guys, maybe some good points from the analysis. So. This is the first one, and let's jump right into the action. Okay, so in this hand, it's going to be a cutoff versus button situation. So the cutoff opens, the button 3-bets, blinds fold, and the cutoff calls the 3-bet. So first, something about the ranges. Well, I think cutoff is opening about 30%, maybe a bit more. And yeah, button is going to be using like 9 or 10% 3-bet strategy, I would think. So these are some pretty basic assumptions. There are no antes in the game, so I think the ranges will not be that much looser. Okay, what do I think cutoff's calling range is? Well, I have looked at the stats, and yeah, and 4 Haley uses a 4-bet game from the cutoff versus the button, so and yeah, and his call 3-bet range is 11%. So if we take a look here at this one in Poker Ranger, well, this is 11% range. I think this is how his calling range could look like. Yeah, basically 6s plus, some suited connectors, suited aces, and from the offsuits, Broadway cards, just ace jack, king queen, ace queen offsuit. I don't think he's going to be much wider than this, and he might also slow play some premium hands from time to time, but I didn't include that in the analysis because yeah, it's way more likely he's going to 4-bet, so I didn't really bother putting a weight on that. If you want to be totally perfect, we could do that. So this is how his calling range looks like, and then I gave the button a polarized 10% 3-betting range. Yeah, there could be some discussions about this as well, but I don't think the button's range is so important here. For the analysis, I really want to analyze the play cutoff mate. So, okay, how to think about what's good on the flop. If you look at this, this is a very good function that Poker Ranger has, by the way. You can actually compare the equities. So the blue line is actually the equity, the percentile of equity of the hands that button has, and the red line represents the cutoff. So we can see that the button has a pretty big range advantage here because yeah, he has pocket jacks, and then he has all the queens plus hands. So really, in the key part here, where they're the strongest hands they can play for stacks on this board, the button has a pretty big advantage. So I don't think it makes much sense for cutoff to be donking this board at all, I guess. So I would definitely use a 100% checking strategy here. So I think that's what the cutoff should be doing. Yeah, so the cutoff checks this board, and button bets half pot. I think yeah, the sizing is pretty standard for a 3-bet pot in position. I think the button can be pretty aggressive here, and yeah. And now the question is what the cutoff should do here. If he should develop like a check raising strategy, or if he should just check call. Well, we can maybe compare that a bit later, like a strategy that check raises, for example, ace jack, king jack, and how that would affect his other ranges, for example, calling down and the EV of his line. But yeah, first I want to go through the hand and then maybe discuss some other options. So I think the default for most players, at least at like mid stakes, like up to 1k, is to not have a check raising range here. Is just to basically check call down, because yeah, if we look at the board hits for player 1, which is who is the cutoff, we see like basically if we put in top pair plus hands, then that's like 20% of his range. So if this guy's gonna like bet shower, we won't have to defend much on most rounds. We won't have to defend much other hands than top pair. if we use like a 1 minus alpha logic. So I'm just gonna calculate that quickly, 1 second. Okay, so the basic math for this, on the flop the cutoff has 128 combos with card removal. We can see this here, discounted by other ranges and boards, 128. Now if we give him the flop defense frequency of 65%, turn defense frequency of 65%, and river defense frequency 58%, which accounts for like 2 half pot size bets and then river shove, he's going to have to defend about 31 combos. So if we look here, Jack X plus is 26 combos, so if he calls Jack X plus and then all combos of pocket tens, then he's pretty much unexploitable by bluffing, unless the guy has some relevant blockers. I came up with these numbers. This is just a really rough estimate. Obviously, this might be like closer to 70% on the flop and turn. Well, if we did that, then we would have to defend about 36 combos till the river. So we would have to call some 9x hands, like ace-9 suited, for example. But yeah, I don't want to go that deep into it. How to estimate these numbers is a really tough thing because, yeah, obviously, if we use only the 1 minus alpha logic, then the cutoff would need to defend. We have to calculate the risk reward for button. So we see that if button is betting 411, he's risking 411 to win the pot of 1,236. So he needs 33% fold equity. So we need to defend 67% of our range, and yeah, this could be a bit less because when he has a bluff, like for example he has a hand like ace queen that he decides to barrel with, it is also a plus if we check behind. So with our calling range, we just want to make him indifferent between betting the hand and checking it behind. So that means we have to defend a bit less, and the fact that he's going to realize equity when we just call his bets will make us have to defend more. So I think 65% is a pretty decent estimate. It's not going to be 100% correct, but yeah. So with this estimate, we would have to defend 31 combos till the river, which means we would have to call all of our Jack X hands and then also our pocket tens, or almost all of our pocket tens. So this is what it would mean just to call down on a run out, like let's say deuce and 3 offsuit on the river. If other cards come, obviously things change. So the main question is if we want to develop a check raising range here. It might be good to, I'll first say my opinion about this and then we can maybe get into some math. I think it's good to have a small check raising range here. Like if we have Jack 9 suited pre-flop, then that's that's the 2 combos we would definitely want to raise here, and also raise a few bluffs so we're balanced. But apart from that, I like to play this spot more passively versus most players because our range is just capped, and if he's going to barrel a lot, so yeah, we can just bluff catch with our Jack X and maybe donk some turns that are good for our range, and maybe some rivers. So anyways, what happened? The cutoff check called in the hand. So if we take flop continuing range, we take this range that he has on the flop, and now he has to defend about 65% of it. So let's make an estimate what he could defend here. I think he's gonna fold all these hands that are like third paired or worse, because they just have so little equity when they're behind, so I don't really see much point in defending those. Now he's gonna fold ace queen, I would say. Then he's gonna fold I think he's gonna fold some of the broadways that don't have backdoor flush draws. So I think he's gonna call ace queen suited and ace 10 suited when he has a backdoor flush draw. He's obviously not folding his king queen and his pair hands. So, and then also he's gonna fold all of these except for ace deuce. Ace deuce I think is good enough to check call because we do have the overcard and we're gonna have backdoor flush draw pretty often. So yeah, this is basically the defending range I would give him. So if we take a look here, so this is 80 combos. The initial range was 128, so we're defending 80 combos out of 128. So we're defending like 0.625%. So we probably have to make this a bit higher. If we want to defend a bit more here, then we would have to call some of the either some of the ace queen offsuit hands or maybe 7-8 suited with the gotcha and backdoor flush draw. But I think this is a good enough estimate that I'm just gonna go with this range, which seems pretty reasonable, and I would be playing this spot pretty similarly. So if he check calls this range, we can see what happened in the hand. Turn comes 3 to complete break. I think this is a pretty bad spot for like all of our flows that had a backdoor flush draw obviously now don't have anything on this turn, so it's a decent spot for button to barrel like his overcard hands. But yeah, the turn goes check check, and then the 10 comes on the river, and this is where the hand gets very interesting and why I actually decided to pick this one. Well, first my thoughts. Obviously a ton of cutoff's calling range on the flop improved by this card, because if you take a look here at this range, I mean, almost every hand, okay, this is not the right one here, almost every hand has like at least a pair or 2 pair or straight, and really the only unpaired hand is like ace queen suited, which we have only 3 combos of. Apart from that, we like always have at least 1 pair. So our range is like ridiculously strong on this run out, given we have all the king queen combos, and yeah, king queen is 16 combos. That's a hell of a lot of combos. So I think in these situations, we can. It's probably correct to split our range in some way, like to have a small betting range and then to check a lot probably. But yeah, for practical reasons, I think it's good to develop a pretty simple model that's not going to be that bad, or that's going to be pretty good, but doesn't have to be 100% perfect. So I think versus most players, this is a pretty good spot to check a lot for the cutoff, because yeah, our range is just so strong that when we bet a big sizing, let's say we bet like pot here or 3/4 pot, it could be pretty easy that we don't have enough bluffs for that sizing, and we would have to start bluffing hands like, let's say, queen jack, or hands like ace 10, which have like very decent showdown value. So we would have to prove that bluffing with those hands is more plus EV than just checking it down, and I don't think that's going to be the case very often, because I think button is going to barrel most of his value hands on the turn. I don't think he's going to slow play the turn very often. So basically I think the most value we can get here is just by either betting a very small sizing in some balanced way, and then by check raising and hoping the button just either bluffs or makes some kind of thin value bet. So I'm just going to show what happened in the hand. The button bets here, 3/4 pot, and the cutoff raises, which I very like. I very like this play because of the things I explained. I think if he bets out a big sizing, he just can't have enough bluffs. That makes sense for this line. So I think he either has to bet very small or check raise, and or split his strategy between these two things. So I just made a quick simulation in Cardrunner's EV, so we can take a look at that. Okay, so first let's look at a situation where cutoff is using a 100% check strategy on the river. So basically I just built up the tree to the point where we're on the river. The calling range from the flop, I use the same one as I showed previously. So now let's say the cutoff checks 100% of its range, and the button bets 3/4 pot with Jack 8 suited. That's the hand he had in this hand. And now the cutoff has to react to this bet size. So it's pretty obvious that any 2-pair plus in this situation, or almost any 2-pair plus in this situation, is basically the nuts. So yeah, like button can have hands like 10-9 or 10-10, but I didn't give much weight for that, because I think that he's gonna check back the flop with most of those hands. Like he might not, he might like bet check behind turn to snap call the river. So maybe I should add some weight to those hands, but basically if we check shove as the cutoff with any 2-pair plus hand, so we take king queen and every 2-pair plus and all the sets, then our check raising range is, we check rate, the button will get check raised 40% of the time. That's just an insane amount. So if we look at the percentages here, if we check raise any 2 pair plus for an all-in sizing, and then we take as a bluff we use our 9x hands. You can see that in this model they're a bit minus EV, but I think that's close enough. Like the bluffs should be close to 0 if the EV of the bluffs should be close to 0 if the button is defending optimally versus this raise. So yeah, the button is at this moment is calling with 41% of his range, and also we're check calling with our 1 pair Jack X hands. So if you look at the strategy where we're check shoving a balanced range and also calling with our check calling with our top pair hands, then we see we're only check folding 22% of the time, and this just can't be right for the button to really bet any hand that's just weak 1 pair hand. So the conclusion from this is that if button has a hand like Jack 8 suited as he had in the hand, I think he just cannot value bet this river for this sizing. It's just not good if cutoff is using a 100% check strategy. If he's using that strategy, that's another thing to discuss, but if you're using this strategy, I think betting with Jack 8 is clearly worse than checking behind. Like getting check raised with the balanced range is so bad in this situation that yeah, and we also won't get called by worse in this spot. Like really, the cutoff would have to check call with his weakest bluff catchers like Ace 10, King 10, Queen 10 for this to be good. So I really don't like this play. If it was a value bet, if it was a bluff, well, yeah, it could make some sense, but he did call the shove, so I don't think it was like, yeah, I don't think it was bluffing. So it doesn't make sense to like bluff and then call the all-in because you think, yeah, you have a 0 EV call or something. Doesn't make much sense to me. So if we compare the EV of checking here, so we see it's like almost 13 big blinds, and when we bet with his hand it's minus 12 big blinds when we like bet call with his frequency and bet fold with some frequency against the balanced range. So I think when cutoffs uses this 100% check strategy, the button just doesn't have any incentive to bet, and he should be checking behind with his hand for sure. So next we should compare what the button should be doing if we do have a betting strategy, and we'll discuss various bet sizing options. Okay, so in this second scenario, well, the cutoff is playing a strategy where he's betting the river at a pretty high frequency. Here we can see that he's betting 70%. I gave him basically all hands that have like very marginal showdown value. All the ace queens, all 9x hands, and also ace deuce suited. Yeah, and I gave him the 10x hands for checking behind because I think, yeah, those for checking the river, because I think those there's some threshold where the hands are getting just too strong to bluff, and I don't think it's gonna make really much sense to bluff with 10x here. So what we want to do here, our value range for this bet is also gonna be like 2 pair plus. We could also value bet like maybe ace jack here, but just to simplify this, I put all the 2 pair plus hands here, and all the hands with like very marginal showdown value. So what we want to accomplish here, if we want to bet this range, we want to find out the sizing so that button is indifferent between calling and folding with the bluff catcher. So a bluff catcher in this spot is basically, yeah, a weak jack x hand or 10x hand here. So we basically want to put in a bet size here so that him calling with jack 8 suited would be minus EV. So if we were betting this range, or not minus EV but 0 EV, if we were betting this range, now he should clearly snap call us with jack 8 because he's just making 8 big blinds on his call. But if we make the sizing higher, like for instance if we make it first pot and calculate it, we'll see that the EV of his call is gonna be lower. Yeah, it's only 5.82, and yeah, if we bet really big sizing here, like let's say 48, it's just a wild guess. We'll see what happens. Yeah, his call is still making about 3 big blinds, so we have to pump up the sizing here, like to maybe 60. Which is almost twice the pot. Yeah, now he's like almost break even. So basically we have to make a pretty big overbet if we want to bet this range. So one possibility is like to shove a balanced range here, or just to overbet huge, because like yeah, betting 60 and it's very close to shoving because we have like 84 big blinds left, I think. So if we would bet 84 big blinds here and maybe add a couple of 10x hands to balance this ratio, then yeah, we're making him indifferent to bluff catching in this spot. So, and if we check the rest of our hands, we're checking only 30% of our range. I can show you what we're checking. We're checking the 10x hands and the jack x hands. Like all of the other air hands that we have, we bluffed with them. So if we are checking this range is still pretty strong, and you just can't value bet jack 8 against this range. So if you look at jack 8 here, if you bet into this range, assuming I'm calling 60%, which is I'm defending pretty well versus the bet, yeah, and I'm folding all of my 10x hands, then obviously his value bet is not good. It's -2 BBs, and checking behind with the hand is plus almost 13 BBs. So even in this instance where we're leading the river with 70% range, I just can't see how betting with jack 8 suited can be good. So to make a conclusion for this, I don't really get Button's play. Maybe if you guys have an idea what he's doing or what he's trying to accomplish there, you can share, but I think his play is pretty bad, and yeah, I do like Cutoff's play on the river. I think it makes a lot of sense to play his range there. And just to summarize this, I can show you what happened in the hand actually. So yeah, the cutoff check raised on the river, and yeah, the button check raised on the river, and yeah, the button showed jack 8 suited at 1, and the cutoff was bluffing and had 9 of clubs, which I think is a very reasonable bluff for this spot, and I do like his play, and I don't really understand this bet call. Maybe he had a timing tell or something, but no other way I can really explain that. So yeah, well, that was all for this hand, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you liked it, please leave some feedback in the comments. Maybe if you have any idea what Button is doing in this hand, that would be also interesting. So yeah, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Bye.